Vaccines have been rolling out in Windsor-Essex, but Chatham-Kent is still without a single vial. This has some feeling abandoned. Decades-old housing. After years of deterioration, some empty community housing apartments may soon get a revamp. A live look at our city there. It's been a cloudy day for much of the region, but we are supposed to get some sunshine tomorrow. Colette Kennedy will join us for the full forecast later in the program. I'm Katerina Georgieva. Chris is away. A new wave of migrant workers are already arriving in Windsor-Essex to start work at local greenhouses. Last year, hundreds of migrant workers in the area became sick with COVID. 2 even lost their lives. Right now, there are 12 active outbreaks on farms. Local leaders say what's ahead is a looming crisis, similar to what we saw last summer. They're worried not enough is being done from upper levels of government when it comes to prevention and enforcement of rules on farms. Jacob Barker has been looking into this, and he joins me now live. Jacob, what are leaders saying?
Well, Kat, leaders are concerned about a rise in cases of COVID-19, particularly among the agricultural workers. It was a major driver of cases in Leamington and Kingsville last year, and they don't want to see a repeat. According to the County of Essex, between 600 and 700 new workers have already arrived, and up to 2,000 are expected in the next couple of weeks. In all, nearly 10,000 workers will arrive by June. Speaking with Nelson Santos, the mayor of Kingsville, he says some of those new workers have already shown up positive for COVID-19, and that's something that we couldn't confirm. But for him, it's raising concerns about how new workers are being introduced into the workforce. He points to inspections of how they're being quarantined by Service Canada. Santos says, well, some of those are done virtually. They don't follow up in person. And that leads to questions about the integrity of how workers are initially quarantined. He, along with Essex County Warden Gary McNamara, put these concerns in a letter asking the federal and provincial governments to strengthen their role in implementing the rules they've put in place, because they're unable to do so at the local level. They called it a looming crisis.
We're asking the governments and the powers that be to utilize their requirements, strengthen them based on the experience that we've already gone through, and bring that oversight into, you've allowed this program to continue with certain restrictions and guidelines. How are you policing it? And we're asking them to police it and to bring forward the boots on the ground, the enforcement that they've approved.
So, Jacob, what will this mean for the farms that are hoping to bring more workers in?
Well, I spoke with Joe Spracci of the Ontario Greenhouse Vegetable Growers. He's unaware of any cases where new workers have shown up where testing has been positive for the virus. He says that things are happening in the proper way now, and there is a lot of oversight.
If the question is do I think that that people are acting inappropriately, I do not. And I certainly wouldn't be supportive of it, or for that matter, would OGVG, be anything but, we've always said all along that we don't defend the undefensible.
Now, the province did respond to the letter Santos and McNamara wrote today, saying, well, the federal government is responsible for the temporary foreign workers program, including the enforcement of the 14-day quarantine and the living conditions of the workers. We have worked very closely with federal and local authorities to ensure there is a coordinated response when it comes to controlling the spread of COVID-19 on farms. Now, we did also reach out to the federal government, and I did get a response very late in the day. I'll just tell you some of that. It said, a spokesperson for them said that they will continue to support workers, employers, partner countries, stakeholders, as well as all levels of government to ensure the safety of those involved and a coordinated response. Kat?
Thanks, Jacob. The CBC's Jacob Barker reporting live. Phase 1 vaccinations are underway in Windsor-Essex. Most in this first group who want the shot have been able to get their first doses, and that includes eligible residents and staff in long-term care homes. But the same can't be said of people in Chatham-Kent. The municipality hasn't received any doses because it wasn't identified as a priority region. Dale Molnar now on the reaction from those on the front lines.
Somebody, again, who has Down syndrome, it doesn't matter where they live. If they contract COVID-19, the outcomes could be awful.
The executive director of Community Living Chatham-Kent has written a statement saying that the vaccine should be rolled out based on the needs of individuals, not on location. Ron Korstein says people with Down syndrome are just as vulnerable as those in long-term care homes, and everyone in those situations across the province should be getting the vaccine first.
That individual could contract COVID-19 and quite possibly would be 10 times more likely to die, 5 times more likely to be hospitalized. So it just, to me, makes sense that for someone who has Down syndrome, that you would get that vaccine out as soon as possible, because obviously the potential there to become ill could put great strain on the hospital system, and it's something that could easily be avoided if people with high medical needs were in the first wave of the vaccine.
Chatham-Kent's Medical Officer of Health, Dr. David Colby, agrees.
Anyone with increased risk of a bad outcome, I think, should be prioritized very highly.
But he understands the supply is limited and says we wouldn't be talking about prioritizing if there was a greater supply. There are currently no cases of COVID-19 in long-term care homes in Chatham-Kent, but 12 COVID patients from Erie Shores Healthcare in Leamington have been sent to the Chatham-Kent Health Alliance, and 2 from Windsor. The CEO of the Chatham-Kent Hospital says a number have been discharged already. She is patiently awaiting the arrival of the vaccine.
We want it as soon as we possibly can, and I have every confidence that it will come to us as soon as it's available.
She expects that will be in early February. Dale Molnar, CBC News, Windsor.
Ontario's 7-day average of daily cases has dropped for 11 straight days now, but experts are starting to look at a potential spring wave, given the new variants popping up around the world. Ontario Public Health says there are 15 confirmed cases of the B117 variant in the province. And today, UK's Prime Minister said there is early evidence suggesting it may be more deadly than other strains. Angelina King has more.
Remember this? Spring 2020, Ontario's first wave of COVID-19. Since then, we've been trying to contain the virus, but just as we're seeing some progress in the second wave, some experts worry a third may be coming this spring, fueled by new variants.
Failure to act now and to contain this now could really spell disaster in March.
Carolyn Collane released modeling today showing what the situation could look like if a variant like B117 is established in Canada under the current safety protocols. In Ontario, that could mean more than 5,000 new cases a day by mid-March.
Something that we won't be able to contain with the measures that we're using so far. So we're kind of barely able to contain the COVID we have today.
She says vaccines could help, but we're up against a variant that's at least 40% more transmissible.
They're better at infecting. So over time, they make up a bigger and bigger and bigger fraction of the infections that you're seeing.
And there may be more out there.
We can expect more to pop up over the next couple months.
Epidemiologist Ashley Chute says the situation a year ago when COVID first entered Canada is likely to play out again with variant strains.
So we should respond in a way that's more proactive and say, it's not a question of if these variants arrive, it's when. And so what can we do right now?
Chute is a member of the COVID Strategic Choices Group, which is petitioning Ottawa to implement stronger travel measures in light of new variants, including restricting non-essential international travel, increasing testing and variant screening for travelers, and enhancing quarantine measures. Transport Canada says it continues to discourage Canadians from non-essential travel, saying, as the Prime Minister said, we are currently considering options to further restrict travel, and all options are on the table. These new measures could be introduced with short notice. Experts say at a more local level, further measures may need to be implemented to protect the public from variant strains, and once again say more support like paid sick leave would help. Angelina King, CBC News, Toronto.
This weekend, COVID enforcement will be in full swing at big box stores in Windsor-Essex. Inspectors will be making sure businesses are following pandemic safety protocols.
But we will have dozens of inspectors in the Windsor-Essex area this weekend doing a concerted blitz on big box stores. But I also want people to know that every day across the province, there's more than 400 inspectors in all different types of workplaces and on construction job sites during this 28-day lockdown period. We're really focusing on those places of business that are allowed to be open to ensure that COVID-19 is not getting into the workplace and on a job site.
An update to a CBC story now about a father who put up a temporary garage in his driveway. Stephen Levesque did it for his daughter with cerebral palsy to make it easier for her to get in and out of their van and into the house in the winter. At first, the city gave them just a week to remove it. Now, the city has given the family until the end of March to take it down. Levesque says the city has agreed to help work out a permanent solution. Ottawa appears to be getting ready to tighten up pandemic travel restrictions. The Prime Minister and the Public Safety Minister say international and domestic travelers could be targeted. CBC's David Cochran has the latest.
Monday will mark 1 year since a traveler was diagnosed with the first known case of COVID in Canada. In the run-up to that anniversary, the Prime Minister says, stay home.
No one should be taking a vacation abroad right now. If you've got one planned, cancel it. And don't book a trip for spring break.
The advice is more urgent with vaccine deliveries interrupted and as new COVID variants emerge around the globe. It's also backstopped with a warning that if you leave Canada under one set of rules, the rules could be different when you try to come home.
We could be bringing in new measures that significantly impede your ability to return to Canada at any given moment without warning.
People already have to quarantine for 14 days if they travel abroad, but one option floated by the Premier of Quebec is to make people serve that isolation in a hotel at their own expense.
It's clear that if we tell eventual travelers that they will have to pay for 2 weeks a room in an hotel coming back, I think we'll have a lot less travelers also.
Nothing is off the table.
The Public Safety Minister says that's an option, along with unspecified measures to make travel less attractive.
Additional quarantine measures and enforcement measures in order to disincentivize and discourage people from making unnecessary trips.
While the federal government won't say what specific measures are being considered, the message is pretty clear. If you won't follow public health advice and stay home, they will make it as difficult as possible for you to take a vacation. David Cochran, CBC News, Ottawa.
A Windsor woman is one of 2 victims of a double homicide in Fort Erie. The 20-year-old from Windsor was found dead at a short-term rental there on Tuesday. The other victim was an 18-year-old woman from Toronto. Niagara Regional Police say their investigation determined a group of people had gathered at the home Monday night when a gun was discharged. Detectives are trying to identify everyone who fled before officers arrived. Windsor City Council has approved an historic $170 million plan to renew and repair community housing over the next 8 years. The decision comes after decades of deterioration. And as CBC's Dan Takama reports, it could mean more housing for those who need it the most.
I'm happy. You can ask my staff refer to it as he's happy, happy, happy. Yeah, this is great.
It's been decades in waiting. Finally, community housing built in the 50s, 60s, and 70s is set to be upgraded. Inside 395 University Avenue East is a time capsule of sorts. Walking into Unit 107 is like stepping into the past. Built in the 1960s, it was once on the cutting edge of accessibility, but not anymore.
It's units like this where the work is most needed. Cabinets that likely haven't been touched since the 60s. Doorways that aren't wide enough for modern accessibility devices. And a bathroom that's beyond outdated.
Meanwhile, the waitlist to get into housing has grown to more than 5,500 people. Housing providers across the country are facing issues after years of inconsistent funding from different levels of government.
More for less has been the motto we've worked with. But over time, you move into tomorrow the problem that you should have paid for today.
Unit 107 is home to some of those problems. Opening a closet means blocking off more than half of the hallway. Inside the bathroom is a tub with high sides and slippery tiles. Contrast that with this, found in another community housing building just around the corner. With a wide door, roll-in shower, and plenty of space to maneuver, it offers a glimpse of the future.
It's a tremendous amount of work. It's going to be difficult work, but we're looking forward to the idea of trying to make an improvement to our portfolio.
Residents are also looking forward to improvements. And one has a ready answer for anyone who's critical of spending so much on housing.
BS. Just because some of us end up in community housing doesn't mean we're any less. We're people, just like everybody else, except this happens to be our home.
Nada has lived in community housing for 15 years. She says without it, far more people would be living on Windsor streets. And that's something worth investing in. Dan Takema, CBC News, Windsor.
Kingsville's fire department has a new fire chief. John Quennell is stepping into the role. He's been working as the temporary deputy fire chief since October. He's also served as deputy fire chief in Lakeshore, and he was a firefighter in Windsor for more than 3 decades. Quennell officially starts on Monday. Now, this comes after the news that Chuck Parsons would no longer be chief. An independent review found that a change in leadership was necessary. The review was conducted partly after a water rescue went awry back in September. Parsons had stepped into the position in 2017 after former chief Robert Kistner retired after being charged and later convicted with several sexual assaults. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau spoke with the Queen today about the resignation of Governor General Julie Payette. She's stepping down because of a report that catalogs a toxic work environment at Rideau Hall. Trudeau, who appointed Payette, is now being criticized for a lax vetting process that didn't catch past employment problems.
We will continue to look at the best way to select people for the vice-regal appointments. It's an important role for Canadians, and we will look at how we can improve it.
Trudeau didn't use the committee process that former Prime Minister Stephen Harper did to select Payette's predecessor, David Johnson. Outgoing governors general usually receive a $150,000 a year annuity and a $100,000 a year expense allowance. The demand continues to grow for food banks in Windsor-Essex, many coming in for the very first time.
We are in a pandemic that doesn't seem to be getting better, and that in itself is scary because we want to get back to normal. People want to get back to their jobs. We want to get back to normal, but I'm not sure when normal will happen. So I'm just very happy that we're here and we can help people if they want the help.
Muir says it now helps more than 1,600 people per week. Windsor has one of the highest unemployment rates in Canada with a rate of 11.1%. The centre says through donations, they're able to keep up with the growing demand, recently receiving a $10,000 donation.
It's not unexpected that after an extended pandemic, savings would be depleted and people would turn to the UHC for help.
Katzman says he's lucky that he's still able to work during the pandemic and hopes others who can will help out as well. Another live look at our city. When we come back, clouds, flurries, sun, well, it's all possible in the days ahead. Colette Kennedy will bring us the full forecast right after the break, but first for some light content. If you've been on the internet since the American inauguration, you've probably seen a Bernie Sanders meme or 2 or 3. Well, the U.S. Senator finally made it to Windsor. Locals putting Sanders in front of the casino, patiently waiting for it to open, hanging out downtown, even at the Windsor Art Gallery, the Ambassador Bridge, and there's even one with the Windsor Spitfires, which you'll see in just a second. Now, can you catch him in the corner there? Enjoy. We'll be right back. Colette Kennedy joins us now for weather. Colette, all I'm hoping for this weekend is a bit of sun.
A bit of sun? Okay, I can deliver that. Saturday's going to be your better day. In fact, we're going to have more than a bit to start the day off. So yes. You know, the other thing, though, that is happening is it's going to be coupled with some colder air. And it's not unusual. It's not unseasonable. We just haven't really seen much of it. And so it takes a bit of adjusting. That's all. So some of these overnight lows and you know, morning temperatures are going to be chilly and you got to prepare for them. Our daytime highs, those aren't too bad. You'll see what I mean here. But our temperature's been falling, -5 now. Chatham-Kent as well at -5. Factor these west to northwesterly winds in, which have been gusty at times still. And it feels already like -12 to -13. Now, the winds, when are they going to let up? That's the big question, right? So we still have them to some extent, at least through the overnight hours into the early part of the day tomorrow. And then they're really going to be tapering off finally. And so at least we'll have lighter winds. And Sunday we may have more cloud cover, but the winds will be a little bit lighter then too. Some of the lake effect streamers off to the northeast, just a few flurries at times possible, but then we're actually going to get into a clearing trend here overnight tonight. So that's why we're going to start the day off tomorrow with some sunshine. Thanks to high pressure, it's also driving that wind in here, but it's going to clear the skies. It will be somewhat short-lived, though, because Sunday, look at this system. It wants to bring some energy in, but watch how it all kind of dries up. We do get the cloud cover, probably only a few flurries, maybe Sunday night into Monday morning, and the main energy goes southward, and this storm looks like it will stay to the south of us. Again, cloud cover, a few flurries, and primarily that is it. But the cold air, that we can't escape, so -9 tomorrow morning. It will feel like -17. Tomorrow, the high -1, still going to feel like -5. But you can see our daytime highs at least not too bad through the period there, Kat.
I'm looking forward to Saturday then.
Get your sunshine in.
Exactly. Thanks, Colette.
You're welcome.
When we come back, a remarkable story of lost and found involving $85,000 in cash. Stay with us. Welcome back. Baseball legend Hank Aaron has died. Known as Hammerin' Hank, Aaron was at the top of the all-time home run list for more than 3 decades. He passed Babe Ruth in 1974 to take the top spot, and he stayed there until Barry Bonds passed Aaron in 2007. Aaron is still in the number 2 spot with 755 home runs. He played for 23 years in the major leagues, most of them for the Milwaukee and Atlanta Braves. He was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1982. He died in his sleep at the age of 86. For a lot of people, secondhand stores can be real treasure troves, and that's especially true for the staff of a Value Village in Vancouver. They discovered $85,000 in cash while sorting through a load of donations.
This is certainly the largest sum of money that I've ever come across, and we knew based on what was inside the bag that we were looking at somebody who was elderly and had possibly lost the money.
The store manager says they knew the person didn't intend to donate the cash, so they contacted police. Using some documents that were found along with the money, they were able to track down the owner, an elderly woman living in a retirement home. That is it for CBC Windsor News. Don't forget, for news anytime, you can go to our website, cbc.ca/Windsor, and we're on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. The Rick Mercer Report is up next. Have yourselves a wonderful night.